Kingdom fruit is more than evangelism. Again, you might say, man, this guy doesn't believe anything you should believe. Kingdom fruit is more than evangelism. Now, the important passage about this is in Matthew 21, and the reference is there. And Jesus was talking about the kingdom, and he said, if you don't produce the fruit of the kingdom will be taken from you and given to somebody else. Now, the challenging thing about that is twofold. First of all, that God would take the kingdom from somebody. Now, he wouldn't do that to us because we're special, right? It would have to be the other people. The reality is he will take the kingdom from people who don't produce it and give it to somebody else. Now, that's scary. What that means is the kingdom is about producing fruit. See, I'm going to say to you at the end of our time today, all this is nice theory, but if we don't do something about it, it's a waste of time. You just go out of this saying, well, wasn't that a great seminar? And the other thing which is scary about it is I think God will hold us to account for what we hear. Because at the end of the day, Jesus said the kingdom is about producing fruit. The talents is all about it. You know, the guy who's given the talent, he comes back and says, well, what happened to it? Oh, I didn't use it because I thought you were coming. No, I don't want to get into the eschatology. But you can be so caught up in the end times. Hey, who's worried about this? It's all going to end up certain time. So Jesus comes and says, yeah, but what did you do with the talent? Well, you're coming. You know, but what did you do with the talent? So that's the heart of the kingdom, irrespective of when Jesus may be coming. So the challenge here is the kingdom fruit must be produced, otherwise he'll give it to somebody else. Yeah. So it really begs the question, what is kingdom fruit? How do we know if we're producing kingdom fruit? If you go back to my starting point, and that is that the kingdom of God is about God's will being done, then that's my answer for kingdom fruit. Wherever God's will is being done, we are producing fruit of the kingdom. Makes it simple, but also makes it challenging. So the issue there is, what does that look like? I think it involves evangelism and social action. I think it's long term. Again, let me say this, and it may be an issue. I'm thinking of people that may be listening to this beyond just this group as well. But whatever you think about the end times, whatever you think about the day in which we live, I believe the kingdom of God is marked by long-term thinking about generations to come and planning for generations to come. So that whenever Jesus comes, he finds us doing what is his will and purpose at that time. And if you start to think about that, then it changes the way you think. And I'm going to get to it in a moment, but let me just give you an illustration. If you believe we're so much out of time that there's really not much point in thinking long term, then why would you fight slavery? And you've got a couple of years to go. Those poor girls are going to suffer for a few years, but then they'll be fine for eternity. People that think like that, I don't think they understand the kingdom. They're being selfish. They're being making excuses for themselves. They're not standing up for what God's calling them to. I'd rather Jesus come and find me in the middle of taking a girl out of slavery, rather than sitting in a church waiting for the rapture or whatever we do. So it needs to be long term. And it deals with all of life. Now, I want to give you an interesting thing here. I don't know if you've ever seen this before. But this is something written by Gandhi. You might say, this is a Christian seminar. What are you doing quoting Gandhi? You'll get to understand I'm a little bit outside in terms of thinking. Because Gandhi, about a year before he was assassinated, he had his grandson with him. And he got a piece of paper and he wrote down what he called the 7 blunders of the world. Just a little scrap of paper. And the grandson ended up with it. I don't know how anybody found it. But these are the things that he described as the 7 blunders of the world. And to me, they are a kingdom perspective on our world. Okay? I didn't say Christian, but they are kingdom. Christian because he wasn't a Christian, but his perspective, I think, was something from God. Wealth without work. Isn't that a blight? When people can get to be wealthy without working and understand what's going on to get there. Pleasure without conscience. Where does pornography come from? Commerce without morality. That's why the business world's got such a bad rep, because it doesn't practice what it should. Politics without principles. I don't need to tell you about that living in our country or living here in Canada. Knowledge without character. We live in a world that's full of knowledge, but no wisdom, no character. Science without humanity. What a way to judge science. Nothing wrong with science, but does it go through the grid of that kingdom perspective of what it's all about? And then worship without sacrifice. How many Christians want to sacrifice? Not many. Interesting, I just think it's an interesting thing. So then we're talking now about kingdom fruit. So again, you won't have time to look at all these, but this is a lot of them are motherhood sort of statements. I know they're kind of big and pretty generous, but what I'm trying to say is the kingdom covers a whole lot of aspects. Make poverty, slavery and disease history. I think that's part of the kingdom. And let me say this, I don't care whether it's a Christian that's doing it or it's Bob Geldof. They are reflecting the heart of God. We're not talking about are they saved, we are saying are they giving expression of what God would want the earth to be like. How many reckon it would be a better place if we could see poverty and slavery and disease gone? And our problem is we sit in our holy huddles and we say, well, that's all good, but they're not Christians, so it can't be good. And that's just achievement statism. That's easy to do. All right, corporate social responsibility, media that serves the common good, individual transformation, environmental stewardship, community that cares for its members, family strength, restorative justice, effective churches. I've got the churches in there. But they're just one amongst many. The focus is not just about building big churches or effective churches. That's part of it. Recovery of the beauty of the arts, science that serves the common good, and governments that also serve the common good. Now, once you start to put a perspective out like that, let's suppose you had a group of young people, they're 18, 19, just thinking about the rest of their lives. You put a list out like that and they start to think, man, I like that one, number 5. That's me. You mean that could be a kingdom thing I could do? Wow, that's good, because I don't have a strong thing about building a church, or I'm not really into kind of discipleship so much as a focus. And they start to see, wow, I could really make a difference for God in that area. And I could get into the media and become a Rupert Murdoch. Wouldn't that be fantastic? I could get into areas where I could start to really make a difference. And they start to lift their sense of opportunity, and it starts to make a real difference to them.